Brave Maker Show is hosted by Tony Gaffestone and Christina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Well, what up, everybody? Happy New Year. This is the first show of 2021.
Yeah!
We are up in here, and my name is Tony Gaffestone. I am a writer, director, and actor. I live in Redwood City, California, and I get to be the founder and executive director of Brave Maker, and I'm excited to host this show on a Friday weekly basis. And let me bring over my co-hosts.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Christina Jackson, coming from Dublin, California. I'm an actor, writer, advocate, and this is fantastic, Tony. It's our first show.
It's been a long year already, has it not? We're 8 days in.
Oh my goodness. It's
2021. It's a lot. How are you feeling so far in day 8 of 2021 as a United States citizen?
In day 8, I've just been so wonderfully motivated to dive even deeper into my favorite spiritual books. That's how I'll put it. So I have immersed myself a lot of meditation. Don't forget to do that every day. You know, just a lot of self-care to kind of counterbalance the more stressful things that are going on. And so far, so good, you know?
So good. Awesome. Well, every week when we do our show, we start out the first few minutes by bantering back and forth with this one question. And we do it not just for us, but for you, our listeners and watchers. If you're watching live, welcome. Say hi. Drop a little comment in there. If you're listening on the podcast, we're grateful. But we always ask, how have you braved your own way this week? We ask this because we believe if we're going to go after our dreams, our creative goals, it just takes one little step at a time. So one thing a week. And so I'll start by saying I braved my way this week by writing a new feature, which I talked about at the very end of December 2020. It's called Last Chance Charlene. And this week, I'm actually going to pull my camera up so maybe you could see. Hold on a second. I color-coded, look at this, all the way across. You see that? That whiteboard?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Tony.
I color-coded all of my scenes. Okay. So I'm mapping out the whole script and the feature by scenes, trying to keep them limited amounts so we can do it on a very small budget. And my goal is, hear this, Brave Makers, by May 2021. We're shooting a micro budget feature film by then. So that's how I braved my way. How'd you brave yours, Christina?
That is amazing. So inspiring. I am rereading my favorite spiritual books and discovering new spiritual teachers. So my favorite video right now is by a teacher called, his name is Sadhguru. I hope I'm saying that right. And he has a video on YouTube, 5 tips for a joyful and successful 2021. It's a really beautiful video. You can check it out on YouTube. And that's how I have been braving my way into the new year.
Yes, you are. Send me that link and I'll put it in our show notes for the podcast, and as well I'll drop it in the comments here. Normally we have, oh, you did? Okay, cool. Normally we have Alex who joins us every week, but we're doing double features today. So I don't even know if she's on to do the comments. Yeah. So she is awesome. Hi, Alex. If not, we'll see you later. We have 2 live shows today, but our first guest, this is cool. We did 2 today, and we normally are doing ours at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, but we're actually in, I don't even know what it is. What is the time zone in Paris, France? I don't know what it is, but we're gonna find out, because we have a filmmaker, a writer-director named Christopher Morrison. He has 150 films under his belt, theatrical productions, video games, all these immersive entertainment experiences. He's got a feature film called The Bellwether, which we're going to talk about today. But my real interest is to talk to him about a VR project he's worked on called the Werewolf Experience. So welcome to the show, Christopher Morrison.
Welcome, Christopher.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. And it's CET, Central European Time, is what you call it, my friend.
CET, which is 11 p.m. CET.
11 p.m. Yeah, 11 p.m. It's definitely dark out over here.
Well, thanks for letting Bravemaker be global and joining us. So Christopher and I met. The beauty of pandemic, we met in a digital experience. We met in a room or a space just like this with the American film market. I went to the American film market for the first time via my computer. It was awesome. AFM is a annual event where producers, distributors, filmmakers come together to pitch and share and learn, and it was fantastic. And Christopher and I kept crossing paths multiple times and kept hearing about his work. And so I said, hey, come on the show. So Christopher, first question, how did you get started in this film industry? You've got 150 different projects under your belt. Let's hear a little backstory.
For sure. Wow. I mean, it starts with like a lot of people having the delusion that you're an actor. I went to university. I went to Boston University, started in their BFA program as an actor. Very quickly figured out that wasn't the right fit, and segued inside the conservatory into a program called ITS, the Independent Theater Studies program, which was a design your own major curriculum inside that acting studio in Boston, inside Boston University. So it's like a program nestled inside a program. And it was just pure independent study. And I put together a movement for the stage curriculum for myself and spit myself out as a bit of a movement-based fight choreographer, director, and performer. All of that, then jumped in and was a co-founder of a small theater company in a literal pizza parlor basement in Berkeley, California in 1996 called Impact Theater that lasted 20 seasons, while I was also still doing a lot of movement-based stuff. And that's sort of my career in that world, in the live world, peaked when I went on tour with Cirque du Soleil in 2005 as a movement-based performer for them, because even before all of that, I'm a martial artist, and I've studied 7 different forms of 3 different cultures. And so I went on tour as a sort of martial arts-based performer for them. After that was when, or a little before that, I was lucky enough to be in the San Francisco Bay Area in the early 2000s when the digital revolution was really starting in filmmaking. And so I got into like making DV tape features and all of that kind of crazy stuff for zero cash, which also was my kind of specialty in the theater world, low budget to mid-budget theater as well, even though I would occasionally level up to, national level companies and things like Cirque du Soleil. But that was my bailiwick. And so I just transferred all that knowledge over to low budget filmmaking, and it took off and really enjoyed it. Ended up in LA for 7 or 8 or 9 years. And really just transitioned into writing and directing for film, always being interested in video games and immersive stuff. There was a lot of them. It turns out we didn't call it this back in 1989. My very first paid acting gig was basically 6 hours of what we call crowd animation for the Maryland Renaissance Festival. But they put some serious cash in my pockets, and then eventually I just basically call myself an indie content creator for film, TV, VR, video games, and theater. And that eventually led to Reality Plus, which is sort of my production company. When I say company, I should put that in air quotes. You're looking at it, as well as my lovely wife. But there you go. And I'm always bouncing around. I call myself a shiny object monkey. Something interests me. I've been very lucky to have a career where I can go running, chasing after the thing, whether that's by a project or because I really like another artist and they asked me to work on their thing. And just been very lucky and to have put a career together that looks like that.
Right on.
That's so amazing. So let's back up a little bit, Christopher. I'd love to know a little bit about how you were raised and how did it uniquely create this environment that you're now, where you're thriving as a creator. So where are you from and how did you end up now you're in Paris?
Yeah, I'm sorry you guys are asking I'm trying to give you the really quick answer so we don't waste 90,000 hours. The answer is I was born in Tennessee. My father's family is from down there, just outside of Nashville, and lived there till I was about 8. And then we moved to where my mother's family is sort of immigrated to, because my mother's actually first generation Italian American, and they settled just outside of Washington, D.C. My father, when I was born, went to night law school to switch from being a civil engineer for the state of Tennessee to being a contract and construction lawyer. So he did night law school while he was still working 40 hours a week plus for the state of Tennessee. and we moved to DC, which is not a bad place to be when you're a lawyer. And then we sort of went from lower, really middle, lower class to, very lucky that my mom was also able to go back to work at that point and really raised us up to sort of middle class to upper middle class upbringing by the time I was a teenager. And I was very lucky to go to a high school that had a Shakespearean scholar on staff. No joke. She was a Shakespearean scholar and a Japanese theater expert as well. So actually, behind me, I still have those two shelves there are all Shakespeare. It's my first love, and that's all due to Dr.
Were you ever in a Shakespeare play? Did you ever act in one?
With that 150 number that you're talking about, I'd say at least probably 25% of them are.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I was in two. I was in Romeo and Juliet and Henry IV Part 1. I love Shakespeare as well.
Classic. I'd spin my camera around to show you the Henry IV poster I have on my wall right across here, but won't make anybody sick. But yeah, no, Shakespeare is my first love for sure. And so, yeah, my parents were not artists at all. They were just forgiving and very, very patient. So I am very lucky. And I have always had a network behind me, which is good. Can't say that they were, really, understood exactly what I was doing, but I definitely had all the kind of support that I needed. And I'm very lucky to say that. And that, I lost my father in 2001. But even up until that last point, I was literally about to go on stage when I got the call that he had his last diagnosis, and his message to me at that point was, go on, do the show and get out here when you're done, So just very, very, very lucky to have that kind of support. Cool. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that seems to be rare. People who don't come from an artistic or creative background to be able to have that. So I love hearing that. I have parents who were not in the arts whatsoever either. Very blue collar, worked in the grocery business. But I remember my dad rehearsing while he drove me to my plays, and my mom who rooted me on, and just like that kind of memory. I love. My mom made my first costume out of her robe in the 4th grade. I'll never forget that.
Unreal.
I love it. Man. So way to go to parents who support their kids.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then really, Christina, the other people is just, I've also been very lucky. And after having Dr. Vixilio as a mentor, an early mentor, it was very clear that's what I needed. I need mentors in my life. So I've been lucky to really have 3 very specific professional mentors. Dr. Lee Vixilio started me off in theater, and I transitioned into BU, a gentleman by the name of Robert Walsh, who taught me really what we call stage combat and really that movement-based theater sensibility, and really encouraged me. He was also a director and really encouraged me to direct because he saw that in me. And then I'm still my American producing partner, who is my brother in arms in all things film, Yuri Cole, pulled me into film and video back then, and like I said, in the early 2000s. And those 3, along with my my family network, that's it. That's why I'm here for sure, no doubt.
Beautiful.
That's amazing.
Well, let's hear. Okay, so you're in Paris, France now. Why? Yes. Paris, France?
Speaking of the other end of the production company, the other person in the production company. So my wife is her name is Ioana Mate, and she's the head of VR for Procter & Gamble, and she's worked with them for the last 15 years. We met each other 6-7 years ago. Actually, I'm lucky also enough to have a parallel career as a teaching artist as well. I've taught the whole entire time because of Dr. Lee Vixilio, who I met in school, and because of my martial arts background, where you are expected to train. If you're hanging around for a year or two, at some point they point at the new people and they say, go work with them. And Dr. Vic had the exact same attitude. You were hanging around her for 2 years. She pointed at new people and she was like, go talk to them and train them up. So I've been very lucky to have that. And so I was teaching how to make a short film on your phone for adults at the Berkeley Repertory School of Theater a while ago. And Ioana walked into my class, and again, adults, class for adults. And we hit it off from there. And she was working out of Brussels, Belgium. And when the time for our relationship came to get serious, I was living in Manhattan at the time. And she was like, well, she could either come to the United States and we'd have to move to Cincinnati, which is where Procter & Gamble is centered, or I could move to Brussels. Shock, surprise, I packed my stuff and came to Europe. And then we were in Brussels for 5 years. And then we moved here to Paris for her job as well. Again, she got transferred to Paris. And so here I sit.
No complaints about living in Paris, I assume. It's beautiful. Wow.
It's about Brussels either.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Reality Plus, and we have two different projects we want you to chat about. You want to chat about the Bellwether? Let's hear a little bit about that, because that looks very intriguing. Feature film.
Yeah.
Like a year and a half ago. Yeah. Okay, let's hear about it.
So the Bellwether, we are very proud to say, is the first solo character film that features a woman, meaning there's only one on-screen character. Movies that some people might have heard of like that are Buried or Locke in the more recent past. So we are the first solo character film that features a woman. It stars the wonderful Alex Reed. When you are in low-budget film land for as long as I've been, you burn through like what's going to be your first, low-budget script, and how, frankly, how do you write a script that you can shoot for, when I was living in the States, at least, like a credit card movie, right? How can I do this with, the credit that I have?
Card movie.
Oh, for sure. I went through a couple of cycles of scripts, and when I actually left Manhattan to move to Brussels, I had one that I was ready to pull a trigger on that had 5 characters in it. But when I got to Brussels, it was just too American, and we could go into that some other time. It just didn't work out. I actually shot some test footage for that, and it didn't work. So I sat back down to really figure out how to do this. I came up with, no, let's do it. One character, only one on-screen character, and let's figure out how it goes. And one of the conceits in that movie is that Alex Reed, the main character, Joanne, is trapped in this church by an acknowledged conspiracy that takes outspoken women and breaks them in order to keep us all, and then puts them back into society to keep us all docile. Obviously, this is a very strongly feminist film. I sat down to make a very strong statement about that. And her personality, she actually has what we call shell personalities. So she gets to play 4 different versions of the same character, as you can sort of see here in the trailer a little bit. Different versions of the character come out, and she gets to have conversations with herself, along with the only other character in the film is a television screen that this operator is working to sort of psychologically torture her. I hate to use that word because we are not a torture porn by any stretch of the imagination. We are an elevated thriller. But yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah, we're super proud of it. We're very pleased that it's out in the world.
So it looks incredible. It does not look like there were any financial restraints. What was the most challenging part of pulling off some of that? Because I'm always curious how directors do that when you have a single actor and they're both in the shot at the same time, 2 different characters. How do you pull that off? Can you share that with us?
Sure. Number one in doing that, get yourself a good VFX supervisor. We had a great one. And in Sammy Hermond, who was on set with us to make sure we were pulling that off well. It's actually believe it or not, it's a relatively simple, what we call a split screen. You just lock your camera off. You have one actor on one side of the frame, and you have the other, and you have that actor pop off that shot. Make sure your camera is nice and locked. Change their working costume. Have them stand on the other side of the frame. Pop it off, and then you just merge it in post. And it's basically a button press these days in After Effects. So it's actually not a complicated thing. It looks like $1 million, of course. And I'm not telling teddy tales out of school. I hope some VFX people aren't about to yell at me, but it's really not too complicated to do. Obviously, it got complicated when we had 4 people we do have a shot where all 4 of them are there. And actually, we only have 3 because there's a double. And that's my wife. One played the double for Joanne. Actually, he executive produced the film and was on set the whole time, solving problems. And the other thing was she was Alex's size as well. So she doubled her as well for a good portion of the shoot when we needed her.
So a lot of our audience are filmmakers, screenwriters, people who want to be making their own projects as well. So I always love hearing directors and filmmakers talk about the process. What did you learn? What would you do differently? How could we make something on a low budget, and anything else you want to share, tips and tricks and ideas and behind the scenes.
Yeah, man. I mean, number one, write for your budget. Learn what that means if you can. And the best way to learn that, of course, is to get on a set that hasn't done that. Hopefully that's not yours. Really get on sets that and look at not just what they're doing right, look at what they're doing wrong. And I'm not obviously saying go look for bad sets to work on, but look and see what breaks down when on a set when you are in a supporting position on a set. And that's the other thing is just get on sets, of course. And then learn how to sit down and write and craft a script that you can accomplish for your budget range, and go in and know what that is. And fine if you want to write a first draft where you're shooting the moon, but at some point reality is going to smack you in the freaking face, and just accept that, right? And you have to use your disadvantages to your advantage, and and that is a skill that you develop. Again, I'm just lucky. I've been scrapping in low budget theater, film, everything my entire life. So that's kind of now officially really ingrained in me. So when I switched to film, it was just the first thing that I knew. And again, even then, even saying that, it took me 3 scripts to get to the Bellwether script, and really make sure it was doable for what we had. Also, don't forget to just look around and see what your positives are, right? The other thing is we shot the Bellwether in a 13th century, and that's not a joke, a 13th century chapel. That means that chapel is 700 years old, my friends. And as we like to say, we had 700 years of free art direction on that movie, right? So you've got to look around and find out what what do you have to work with, and make it work inside your script. What I do different is frankly, it was an intense process. I would try to communicate even more. The main thing was, and I'm perfectly happy discussing this, I had a nervous breakdown after I finished, because actually the laptop I'm talking to you on, I did all of post on the laptop that we're talking to you right now. I'm talking to you right now on. I just burned myself out very intensely.
You directed it, you edited it.
I did edit it. I did have an editor, but she was only on for 2 weeks. She's a professional editor, brilliant woman. Please, everybody go hire Stephanie Seibold, excuse me. She's amazing. 2 weeks, she got us 3 different edits. There was some work to be done there. But definitely, yeah. I mean, I had my hands in the edit, but it's Stephanie's movie as an editor for sure. I don't take any credit for that. It's just still got to do a lot of futzing around, and we had 300. The other thing is, don't write a low-budget script that has 330 special effects shots in it. The genius move that I did was have the other character be a television screen. So every time you see the screen is a special effects shot, technically. So we had to do that. So as well, but again, you have to. I also one of these people that in theater and in film, I just want to touch everything. I want to have done everybody's job so that I don't ever ask someone to do something that I don't have any idea, if that makes sense a little bit. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
I'm happy not. Yeah, I'm not an expert in everything. I'm not an expert in fucking anything, really. Oops, sorry, I didn't ask you like a square. I didn't swear like a sailor. I apologize. Yeah, I'm not an expert in just about anything, but I've touched almost everything. So, and then this was the first full post-production process that I could really sit in the middle of. And so I made that decision. It was a good decision and it was a bad decision. I just did not do enough self-care. Chris, you're talking about self-care. I failed miserably. I failed myself miserably in that process and paid the price. Again, I'm not too unhappy because I learned a lot from that as well. So main thing is, when you're doing the thing yourself, you gotta pace yourself. You gotta really check in with yourself. Trust the people who love you the most, who are like, "Are you okay?" Instead of being like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just gotta finish these 5 shots. It's all good." And they know when you're lying. They know when you're losing probably before you do.
So Christopher, if I hear you correctly, are you saying part of the self-care process is to lean on people more and not do it all? I mean, even though it's good to do it all and know everyone's job, but it seems like doing all that had a profound impact on you. Would you do differently as like in your scheduling and the before and the after? Was it the timeline, like too much, too little? What other practical things could you share with us that you learned for next time?
100%. The easiest thing that I crystallized this down to was I'm never going into post without a post-production supervisor ever again. Even if I pay them, even if I have to beg them, if I have to pay them, I always pay people at least $50, like whatever. There will be a gesture of money, but whatever they need, clean their car, watch their kids, whatever. Never ever again will I go into post-production without a post-production supervisor, like on my hip, checking me out, making sure everything's groovy and good and on task, and then I'm not literally losing my mind. So and that's something. Even if, and I know it's hard for low budget people. I know it sounds like my solution is like, spend more money. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying reach into your network, and even if you can't find a seasoned host soup, find someone who can check in with you about the process. Just find someone who's an excellent organizer, someone who is an executive assistant for their day job, whose job is to keep other people on track and who really loves that. Just bring them into your circle and make sure they're part of the team, particularly in post. I think that's what I'm saying. Yeah, definitely.
Can we dive in a little deeper? What is the role of the post-production supervisor? What makes them so critical to your success?
Yeah, I wish I knew. The way I see the job, because I've not intersected with them too much. I've associate produced probably 4 or 5 other pieces, and most of that is on set and early pre-production stuff, because that tends to be where I'm a specialist, which is also why I was so kind of absolutely determined to handle all the post on the Bellwether, at least run everything through this laptop. And really what they do is it's like having a line producer on set. If you guys aren't familiar with that, if people aren't familiar with that term, or even just like, let's get out of line producer. Let's just say like a UPM, a unit production manager, someone who's there, who is responsible for the management of the set, right? And not just the money, but just how things are flowing, and not on a moment-to-moment basis like first AD, but on a backed out 30,000 foot kind of level. And a post-production soup is doing the same thing, but for post, because you got to remember, that's what I fell down on, is on set, you can kind of hold it in your hands. There's camera, there's sound, even if you want to worry about food, there's food. If you got and especially if you have a small set, maybe there's an art department, there probably isn't, but there's art. And then hopefully you have a script supervisor to help you wrangle all of that. But you can you turn your head and you can see every department. Do you know what I mean? Once you get into post, that stuff becomes stuff on a whiteboard, right? Sound, audio, dialogue mix, sound design, music, editing, special effects, audio special effects, all of that stuff becomes sort of invisible and really just this crazy stew that it's hard to sort of, and I'm a visual guy, I need visuals. And to that end, I bought a giant whiteboard and I had it all mapped out. But even then, things just get a little bit more diffuse. It's a little bit more in the concept realm. So a post-production soup is supposed to keep all that in their head, keep it all clear, and to help you stay on track.
Got it.
It's good. What was the timeline? How long did you shoot? How many days?
We had blocked out 16 days. Alex Reed is such a beast. That was it was a one-woman show, 65 pages. And she knocked it out in 14 days.
Wow, amazing. 2 weeks.
We wrapped 2 days early. It's just unheard of in a no budget film. We wrapped 2 days early just because she's that freaking good, because we popped, and it was 1 take, 2 takes, 3 takes max, and we were out.
Wow.
And she's absolutely, thank you. And it's Alex and I work together, but it was, when they say casting is 90% of it, it's no joke, especially in this kind of situation. And it was totally up to her. It was totally down to her. We wrapped 2 days early, so 14 days on set. Yeah, absolutely. And then we were lucky, since we were an indie film, we didn't have a date breathing down my neck. So I spent probably 13, 14 months in post. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so you're self-distributing, it looks like. Yeah. You've got it up on, or do you have a distributor?
We have a sort of a constellation of distributors. What we've got is in North America, we work with Giant Interactive, which is basically, it's a very selective aggregator run by a former Sony exec by the name of Nick Sawa, which I 1000% recommend this company. They are great if you can, make the cut, because they are selective. They only take 10%, and they are very honest. They've been some of the best reporting I've been involved in. 9 to 10 feature films that have been released, and we all know the reporting game that happened there. And if you don't, good for you. Don't worry about it. They're super great. The rest of the world outside of North America, we're with a company called Cardinal XD. We are in our best market is Vietnam. We have over 50,000 views in Vietnam. Congratulations, us. That to the tune of all of $500, but I'll take the $500. Thank you very much. So we're big in Vietnam, and then we are working with a company called Big, because we also held on to the DVD rights, because Yuri and I are from the 90s, just in case. And we actually ended up just signing with the company. Big Pieces. Big Pieces is a distributor, and we're working with MVD, and we're actually doing a physical DVD release to the center of the United States, where there's still DVDs being sold.
Hey.
And we drop in March. We drop on that in March. I'm back to editing on this computer. I'm editing the interviews. We had these wonderful interviews done by a theater and a sexual studies PhD by the name of Dr. Melissa Hellman, who did some interviews for us for some
great,
not backstory. What do you call BTS, for some BTS? So I'm editing those interviews now to go on the DVD, which will drop in March.
So let me encourage you all to go to Christopher's website, realityplus.org. You can see that you can watch The Bellwether on Apple TV, Google Play, Amazon, Vudu. Support indie film. Support this film made in 2 weeks, and let's spread the word. And if you have questions about distribution, because he alluded to, distribution is a wild game for filmmakers, and more often than not, filmmakers are screwed in the process, because distribution is really not in favor of the filmmaker. So I just entering into my first distribution relationship right now, and I'm learning so much, but it is a tough game to enter. So please tweet at Christopher at reality_plus_. But we have a few minutes remaining. I want to chat about the Werewolf Experience. So tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah, man. I am a self-proclaimed VR evangelist. Like I said, my wife, Ioana Mate, is the head of VR for Procter & Gamble. So we're a VR household, and I've been very excited to transition into this. It's a new media, and that is not an exaggeration. This is the birth of television. It's the birth of radio, whatever you want to say. It's a new way to tell stories, and it's just so very exciting to do. And in fact, right now I'm also working on a digital theater experience that's going to incorporate VR and theater and live theater as well. So there's a lot going on. So the Werewolf Experience is something I've been flogging for the last 5 years. It was an idea I had right when I got to Belgium, and it takes a while to get these things off the ground. But so it's a VR, it's what we call a cinematic branching narrative VR experience. So it's all CGI, and the user gets to be a werewolf. And the immersive piece is that in order to trigger the branches in the story, you have to use your own voice to howl like a werewolf to trigger the new branches in the story. We got 3 different endings, and it's a 5 to 7 minute cinematic all CGI experience. So we're very proud to say that we're partnered with a company called Staka, which is actually underneath a company called The Fridge in Belgium. We are completely funded through Belgian, through the Belgian government. Hard to describe the Belgian government. If you know anything about Belgium, it's actually not a country. It's an agreement between 3 different regions that speak 3 different languages that sort of agree to have a federal government, and that means that you can go to each region for arts funding. And we've been very lucky to. We've been very lucky to get funding from the Flemish government, and we've been very lucky to get funding from the Wallonian government, which is the French-speaking part, the Francophone part of Belgium as well. And we just locked our last funds just before Christmas. So we've been in pre-production. Thank you so much. We've been in pre-production for a while, and we're headed into production hopefully at the end of this month, beginning of February. And keep an eye out for it. And please do get in touch. We'll get you on some kind of list, and we'll let you know when the Werewolf Experience drops. We're super excited about it.
That is really cool. I got
wild.
Nicole is watching live, and she's saying love the concept art and the website. I know Nicole loves horror and thriller stuff, so she's a fan true and true. So if she says that, that's great. Please go and support Christopher's work and find him at realityplus.org and follow him along on Twitter. I love this. For some reason, I'm very fascinated with werewolves too, so I'm excited to see this. And congrats on all the creativity and all the work.
Thanks, man. You get to be a werewolf. That's the whole point. That was actually part of it. That was always when I was originally pitching it for funding and stuff. One of the first things was like, you don't want to be a zombie. It's just boring. You don't want to be a vampire. Who wants to drink blood? It's all salty and gross. You want to be a werewolf? Of course you do. Right?
God, silver bullet. I tear people apart, baby.
Yeah, man.
That's great. All right. Well, you ready? The way we always end our shows is by doing our brave faves. So let's do it.
Brave faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave faves.
Christina, what you got?
I have Lorax. Just finished watching it for like the third time last night. I have a 4-year-old in the house, so of course I'm watching all the Disney movies. And the Lorax is, I think the Lorax was on a Netflix. But anyway, it's a fantastic movie, really relevant to what we're going through now here, and actually not just America, all over the world. You know, it talks about greed and community and being brave and going up against the Goliaths of the world. And so I really appreciate this movie. There's a fantastic quote at the end. I probably can't remember it exactly, but it's something about if you want the world to change, like, it's got to be you. Like, if you're waiting for anything to happen, you just look in the mirror, like, it's up to you. And we're huge fans of be your own hero, so that's what this movie's about. And that kid right there is gonna find a way to be his own hero, and it's a fantastic journey, and it's for the family.
Can't go wrong with some good animation as an adult. Always gets your heart. I love that. All right, cool. What do you want to fave, Christopher?
Yeah, sort of a book and the audio book. I'm lucky enough to be getting through this, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. I'm always trying to be a better human and listen to everybody's story and listen to other people's stories and try to understand how to be a better advocate, trying to move through being an ally all the way to being an advocate and a co-conspirator. And this is a freaking, it's a primer on all so many things. And I can't recommend the audiobook version as well. I do a thing that I call double fisting, where sometimes I'll read a book and listen to it at the same time, just be able to go back through and really, really kind of grok it and really get it. So super awesome. Yeah. How to Be an Anti-Racist. Fantastic stuff.
That's cool. Yeah. I love that book too. Christina and I are huge fans of Ibram Kendi. Maybe we'll get him on the show someday.
That would be awesome. That would be bad.
If anybody has any connections, let us know. Yeah. Well, my brave fave for the week is this ridiculously expensive mug. It was like my only Christmas present from my wife, and it's perfect. It is a coffee mug. If you know me, I love coffee. I drink lots of coffee. But the cool thing about this is you use your phone to keep it at the temperature that you want. So it's Bluetooth. I charge it every night. It's right next to my coffee. By the way, none of us are getting paid for endorsing these things. This is just our own personal endorsements. I put the charger right next to my coffee. I set the coffee to go off, automatically in the morning. My coffee mug is all charged. I pour it in, and then my phone keeps it at 145 degrees the whole time, from the first sip to the last sip. And I can't tell you how great this is, because who likes to drink stale coffee when it's halfway done, right? So I hugely fave this, but it's $130 something. So get a sugar mama or sugar daddy, or just treat yourself.
Marry the head of VR from Procter & Gamble, people. I can't recommend it.
There you go. It's called Ember. We'll have all these links in the show notes as well as on our Instagram page. So those are our brave faves for the week. Don't go away, Christopher, but you all know that we are a nonprofit organization. And so all of your support through the year, especially 2020, has been super helpful to us. We were able to make our budget. We had a $6,000 matching campaign at the end of December. And those of you who gave end of year giving, I was so grateful to receive those checks and the PayPals and the Give Livelies. You can go right to your phone and donate at any time. Just text the word BRAVE Maker to 44321. And right now we're currently trying to upgrade our website because we're no longer doing our in-person film screenings. That's how we started as a film festival, and we're trying to host film screenings online, and we actually need to create our own portal through Bravemaker. So we're trying to raise $3,000 in order to do that. So if you're in the giving mood and feeling generous, just text the word Bravemaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate to donate at any time. It's all tax deductible. And next week, we will be having an Oscar-nominated producer named Diane Kwan. She was the producer of the documentary called Minding the Gap. It won Sundance a few years back, did all the festival circuits, and then went to the Oscars. She is now back with a documentary which MTV just purchased for distribution called Finding Ying Ying. And so her director, Jenny Shi, will be on with us next week. And they have given us the documentary to watch for 2 days only, and that's for free, but you have to sign up on our website at bravemaker.com/buzz. So sign up today, go to the website, bravemaker.com/buzz, and you get access to free movies like Finding Ying Ying. All right, well, that's all we got. Any final words before we take off? Christopher, anything else you want to share before we take off? Oh, is he muted?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
There you go. You're good.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just go out there and do it, folks. I mean, you have to. Again, you gotta create. You gotta create. That's just all there is to it.
You gotta create. Yes. Go tweet him. Go find him on Twitter. Go ahead, Christina. What you got?
I'm gonna read the Dr. quote. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. I think we all have to take that to heart nowadays. And those are my final words.
Thank you, Dr. Seuss. All right, cool. We always like to end the show by saying brave stories change the world.
And you are the story.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word Bravemaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.